Good afternoon, ladies and menfolk, and welcome to episode 10 of the Word Ninja podcast. We're in the double digits now.
Woohoo!
Yay.
For those of you just joining us in our shenanigans, we are a 2-hour ramble of writers surviving muses and battling writer's blocks. I am Charles, your instigator of literary insanity, and today my co-hosts are Calvin,
Hello, everybody.
Ed,
Hello.
Justin,
Hello.
and Will.
How you doing?
And today we have some very entertaining talking points for you. The first one is, do you prefer reading series or standalone books? And to get the ball rolling, I'm actually going to kick things off, because I want to be first.
You have
Because I
every
never
right
get to
be.
be first. I'm always last or something.
By all means, man, go for it.
Alright, so for this one, it actually depends on the genre for me. When it comes to sci-fi books, or stuff with more of a techie influence, I tend to go more for the standalone books, or at most, duologies. I feel like sci-fi tends to work better, or is more engaging for me when it's just one or two books at a time, with the exception of stuff like the Star Trek expanded universe, or for others, Star Wars expanded universe and whatnot, where multiple authors are just expanding to a preset universe. But most of the time I just like the one-offs here and there. But when it comes to fantasies, I prefer the trilogies, quadrologies, quintologies, etc. My favorite example of this would be the Belgorod and Malorian quintologies by David Eddings, because it's actually one universe, and the Malorian is the sequel to the Belgorod quintologies. So it's really 10 books altogether, with 2 more standalone ones after that, just for good measure. But for the fantasy ones, it's more entertaining to see the character progressions throughout a longer story arc. Usually with the sci-fi ones, it feels like we have this one overarching plot, but it can be summed up easily within one book because science. Magic tends to be a little more complicated, so it takes a little longer to sort itself out, and seems to work better across multiple books. Or at least that's what entertains me more with each specific genre.
TJ, do you consider stories that or books that are in the same universe but have different story arcs and usually different characters, although there's obviously going to be crossover occasionally, would you consider that a series per se?
Uh,
It's more of
If
a
it-
hybrid, I guess.
if it's the same universe and it encompasses similar characters, I would consider that a series. But if it's different characters entirely within the same universe, yeah, it's different enough. I've never really thought about that.
Because that's something that I was writing about for this prompt. Um, I only really prefer reading a series when it's already been written and released. I don't like to wait around for my books to be published, so I'll usually just wait until I know that the story arc exists in paper form before I go at it. That's why I refuse to read Game of Thrones, for example. And then,
You're going to be waiting for a while.
Yeah. And then, God forbid, you have a Wheel of Time situation on your hands. So I just totally don't touch anything until it's totally complete. But again, the exception being series of books, like I mentioned before, that are really standalone, even if they're based in the same world. Especially when I read a lot of Stephen King horror, and a lot of that is, all of his earlier stuff is based in like Castle Rock, Maine, the fake town. So sometimes you get some character overlap, but in general, all the stories, while being based in the same area and the same overarching fiction, have totally complete story arcs. And I can definitely pop those off in any order, and I appreciate that. I wouldn't consider that a series per se, even if they're set in the same setting. If it has a consistent narrative, like I said, I'll just wait for the whole thing to come out. But that being said, I still enjoy the series more, especially if the characters are consistent and I'm falling in love with them.
How about Calvin?
Me, for the most part, I like standalone books. The only main exception is manga, because they tend to go on and on and on and on and on. And
I have no idea what you're talking about. One Piece.
And since I often find myself late in the game and I like a lot of manga, I have the good fortune of being able to just continue reading series that kind of go on forever, and just get to kind of feel the consumption addict in me. Just keep going and going as long as I can.
Yeah, when it comes to manga, I've found that I can actually burn myself out on a series, even if it's still ongoing. Kind of like Naruto, because it just won't end.
I had that with Bleach. I loved it in the beginning, and I'm like 15 volumes behind, and I don't care as much anymore. I can read like the first story arc and be content, and then after that, I don't care anymore.
I think it was about 2 months ago I finally actually got caught up to current, and I just don't care anymore. It was a push just to get me to current, because I figured it was entertaining enough. Let me at least catch up to see where they are now. I don't want to catch up anymore. Maybe once the story is finished, I'll go back. Meh.
We're all like 80.
Yeah, I started reading Soul Eater again. I'd started, but for some reason, I think probably some sort of shiny object got in my way, and I ended up putting it down. So I'm trying to get.
That series is finished.
Yes, it's only 113 books. But
I know where you can buy the entire series as one boxed set at discount.
You're gonna have to send that to me.
It's a book off in Manhattan. It's like 4 blocks northwest diagonally from Grand Central. It is one of my favorite haunts, but it is very dangerous for my budget.
All right, excuse me, I gotta write that down. I'll keep that in mind
Take
for
me
sure.
there, TJ. Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's definitely a
Sounds
place
like a lot of
worth
fun.
checking out.
I can take the train right from my house to Grand Central.
Your train has a station right next to your house. All you have to do is just walk out and it's there.
I was
I mean,
thinking
it's not like it doesn't go through my living room. I would have to walk.
goes to the garage, of course.
Oh, I didn't tell you I have my own personal train line.
Will, how about you?
Yes. What did I write down for this? Both are good, but I think I go more for series than standalone books. A standalone can be good. It just seems you can. What did I even write here? It seems like there's more you can get into in a series because you have more time. You get to watch a character develop over a much long period of time and see how they act in different plots and settings. You know, like a standalone book, there's one overarching plot. With the series, you can get multiple overarching plots. My favorite ongoing series, which is still ongoing, you want to talk about as long as the manga series, is The Legacy of Drist by Salvatore. It's over 20 novels long and still ongoing.
Okay, so I'm about 15 books behind then.
Yeah, let's see. Trilogy, quadrilogy, trilogy.
Oh, never mind. I have 5 of the trilogies. I just haven't read 2 of them, so I'm not too behind.
I am caught up. And that one's interesting because throughout the entire series, even though each trilogy is its own plot, the entire thing is about Drist from pretty much exactly the moment he was born. So it's been interesting to watch him develop as the world changes over hundreds of years of time, especially in the most recent series where being the righteous, good guy and what is right and wrong isn't so clear-cut anymore. It's left him very confused. Teaming up with less scrupulous people, and he's not quite sure how he feels about that.
Well, some of his companions weren't exactly lawful good.
Yeah, but now he's ranging more with the chaotic neutral types and
Oh
the
dear.
awful evil types, and he's stuck with known thieves, assassins, and murderers, and they're the good guys now, and he's not liking that fact. 100 years ago, I wanted to kill you, and now I have to work with you so we can both kill this other guy.
Hmm.
Maybe I can work with him to redeem him. And the other guy's like, no, just stop. No. Stop trying to redeem me, asshole.
I still blame you for getting me into those series.
I am not sorry at all. The beginning of the next trilogy will probably come out either this year or next year.
Oh my. And how about Ed, if you'd like to contribute?
Yeah, excuse me today, I'm not doing all that great. Basically, you guys have talked about a lot of the same things that I would have said. The only exception that I really have is Stephen King, a few years back, did something with the Green Mile called the serial novel. I love those. I would love to see everything done that way. Because you get like a whole regular single novel, but in like 2 or 3 chapter chunks. I love those. And of course, manga draws me in. It's my downfall.
Your addiction.
Shush. I think the only real series I ever got into was James Patterson's Women's Murder Club, but I am like so far behind. And also Patterson, I guess, is a necromancer and involved in everything. And
The last rumor I read was that he's actually in a coma and all his novels are written from the involuntary spasms of his left hand.
so yeah.
The folks over at Penny Arcade don't think too highly of Patterson.
I love him. What can I say? But yeah, so like I said, for the most part, standalones for me, or stuff that stands alone but in the same world.
Out of curiosity for people, what are your various opinions on series that are done by multiple authors, like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy quote-unquote trilogy that now has 6 books across 2 authors?
I have them all in one book.
I don't think I've ever read a series that was written by multiple authors.
Yeah, me either. I'd have to read a series and form an opinion on that.
No, I'm trying to think of other examples.
I know a lot of books that are written by more than one author, but never a series.
The Bourne series.
How many authors were in that one?
2. The Bourne series was originally written by Robert Ludlum, but after he died, I believe, what's his name? Eric Van Lesbader took over for him.
I know Salvatore is working with his son on some young adult novels that take place in the same time period as the same setting as the Drist series, but Driss doesn't really appear in it or has cameos in it.
Actually, David Eddings might sort of fit under that rule because I think after the two quintologies, his wife, Leigh Eddings, started getting part of the byline in some of the series. I think his last series, which I still haven't read yet, the Treasured Ones or some such, I think the last book might have actually just been Leigh Eddings finishing it up. I just happen to like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy, all 5 books of it. And Ian Colfer did a respectable 6th book to the series. And now for talking point number 2. Which engages you more in a story, either writing or reading one? Character growth, plot progression, world building, or something else entirely? Would anyone like to kick this one off?
I'll go ahead and start.
Okie dokie.
It's interesting because the thing that hooks me into a story is characters and world building. The plot itself has almost no effect on whether or not I'm going to read it, as long as I feel that the characters are engaging and they're reacting, in interesting ways to what's going on around them. That's really what drives me. When I write, I usually have a set of characters and/or a world in mind at first, and then I just start throwing things at them and seeing how they react with each other or the world itself. And then if something I find is really intriguing, or if it has some sort of overarching message I'd like to relate to my audience, that's what I focus my main writing on. And admittedly, my plot development and story can take a lot longer than what is probably healthy because of that. But, it is what it is at this point. But, like I said, well-written characters and relatable motives keep me reading. I'm reading Full Dark, No Stars right now, which is basically, short stories that are, it's by Stephen King, by the way, and it's 4 stories that are based on a central character. And the one that I'm reading right now, it's basically, the plot's really not important, but his descent into madness and how he deals with himself is really what's engaging to me. I don't care what he did or why he did it, but listening to him rationalize his own decisions with himself, it's basically a giant internal monologue, and it's really fascinating to read that. But as fun as flying through the world and discovering all its secrets is, like in a lot of fantasy novels, I still need engaging characters to go on the journey with. So I would say characters are probably the top thing that's important to me for reading and writing.
Anyone else care to chime in?
Sure.
Before I mandatorily volunteer someone?
I'll go right ahead. I think for me, when it comes to reading, it's big for I'm big for character and plot development. Those are the two that really get me. I like watching characters develop, and I like watching a plot develop. Especially when the character development is the plot. Sometimes how the character's development is the whole point of the story.
That's something I didn't consider.
Yeah.
So maybe I do like plot a little bit more than I leave myself to believe.
But only if the plot's about the characters.
Right, exactly.
I like plots with intrigue, plots with subplots. Like going back to the Driss series, whenever I find out that any of the novels is going to heavily rely on the drow from Menzoberranzan, I'm instantly hooked. Because I know there's going to be so many people all trying to work their own angle into the plot and how they can turn the plot and twist the way the fate goes so that they benefit, and the ones they want to help benefit, and the ones they want to hurt die, usually. It always gets rather interesting, especially when it's in Menzoberranzan and you have all the different drow houses fighting against each other, secretly, from the shadows.
And then Drist comes in and messes it all up.
Oh, well, yeah. But that only makes it more interesting, because he just ruins everyone's plan. But that's how it is for me reading. With writing, it seems character development seems to be my big focus, especially with the roommate story. It's a lot about how the basic plot of the story is how the characters are developing and within themselves and with each other. You know, how the relationships with each other are developing, getting better, getting worse, and how they're going through their own personal discoveries. The plot is basically the character development.
Interesting. I think I'm going to cut in just to break things up a little. For me, I'm also all about the characters, although now I have to amend it and say more so when plot plays into the character progression. That's mostly when reading. I do enjoy seeing characters grow throughout the story and usually survive, depending on just how much stuff the author happens to toss at their characters. Some authors are more notorious than others for having the main characters not survive until the bitter end, or just have a lot of side characters die before the last page, as a balance. But I find it easier to associate with the characters rather than the scenarios or concepts that are weaved in throughout plots. So it's a lot more fun to just follow a character through a story rather than, oh, that's an interesting story point, and that's how they got from point A to point B. But when it comes to writing, I tend to mostly be entirely about characters, and the plot is just something that happens to be around them. I like to have fully fleshed out characters with unique personalities and figure out how they play off of each other. The plot just happens to be what they are stuck with or stuck in at that particular moment in time. So my characters may be stuck in an exploding research base, and they have to figure out how to get out, but it's more what each character does in reaction to the ticking time bomb and how they eventually get out, rather than, well, they could take this path down that way, hack through the door, blah-de-blah. And what is eeny, meeny, miny, Calvin's opinion?
Excuse me. I had to think about this one for a little bit, but I think for me, in terms of writing anyway, world building is pretty fun for me. I'm the type of person that can dwell on ideas for long periods of time. If any of you like follow me in my progression on trying to write songs, like I'll tell you, hey, I got an idea that I came up with, and you'll never hear me talk about that idea for like weeks, months, or possibly even years. So with that with that ability, I have the good fortune of having my brain just go on autopilot and let ideas kind of work themselves out. And whenever it's ready, it just comes back to me, and I'll be like, "Holy crap, that's not bad at all." One thing excuse me. Sorry, something in my throat. One thing I do notice about world building is if you set it up correctly, you can it can be a somewhat vital part in the development and development of characters as well as plot as well. Like having characters engage with their world, secondary, tertiary characters, and things like that can help the plot move forward, help your main characters grow, things like that. So, world building is something big for me.
Yay for someone on the other side of the argument. Thought it was going to be all one-sided for a while. All right, Ed, round it out for us.
And of course, I'm that idiot that wants everything. I do. I really need everything to come together. I like great characters. I love intricate worlds. A lot of thought put into mechanics of everything. I can't write it to save my life. Most of my stuff is character with a little bit of plot. Because I have very animated voices in my head when it comes to my muses. But when I'm reading a story, if they've got great worlds, they've got real characters, yeah, that's not the only way I can do it. Most books, if you can't do that, I put them down halfway through.
My goal for Nano this year is to actually have a plot idea. Last year it was, oh, I have all these characters and I have this world. I can't wait to write about that. And as I'm writing, I'm realizing, oh God, nothing's happening. They're all just. I literally wrote a scene where a guy was chopping up vegetables to make soup, and that was all that was going on in the scene. There was no exposition at all. And I was like, wow, I am the worst.
Did you at least give the full recipe of the soup?
Not in
That would be a
measurements.
great way to put out recipes. Chopped up half a carrot, diced up a red onion.
That would be very fitting for Nano season.
An entire good book done, cookbook done in exposition.
I don't even want to think about Nano yet. It's way too soon.
I keep bringing it up. I'm sorry. It'll never happen again.
Okay, I fixed it here.
And yet, I know I need to start preparing. I already have the plot and the characters, it's just figuring out how they all intermix. Hopefully they will intermix easily, with lots of words. Alright, unless anyone has follow-up bits, on to talking point number 3. Yes? Alright.
Yeah. Let's go for it.
Talking point number 3. Cliffhangers. Do you love them or hate them? Or are they just frenemies?
Frenemies!
Let's go with... I'll start on the left side. So Calvin goes first.
All right. Just for full disclosure, the primary source of all my cliffhangers are TV shows. So, with that in mind, yeah, I do love a good cliffhanger. That's really what keeps me interested in a good TV show or a good series. Like, especially if they do manage to engage me throughout the entire season, it'll definitely have me wanting more. And I think 24 is a good example of that. It's trying to figure out all the ways Jack Ba manages to not kill himself. Manga series, they don't give me quite the thrill. Like they will have cliffhangers in them, but being the consumption junkie that I am, I'll just go on to the next book and get my resolution in a matter of minutes.
Presuming the next issue is on hand easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of those where I get to a cliffhanger and then I have to wait 6 months for the next volume to be released. I'm looking at you, Ken Akamatsu.
And this is why I don't read series until they're all released.
But like I said earlier, I'm a little late to the manga game, so most of the series that I'm reading have dozens upon dozens of books that are already out. So it'll only be like maybe a matter of a week or so at most before I can get resolution. Unlike TV shows that I actually actively watch, where I'm gonna have to wait months and months at a time. Which is why I'm glad I didn't get into Scandal. I'm seeing a lot of people just suffering from withdrawal symptoms, waiting for this new season. It's like, dang, did they like? I don't even know.
Like all the horror people.
Out of curiosity, have there been any cliffhangers from one-season wonder shows where there is no resolution ever forthcoming?
Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any. Like, not really. It's kind of all a blur at the moment. I may need some time to think about that.
Fair enough. I can only really think of.
I'm sorry.
I can only really think of one good example of that, where it was a one-season wonder and they left off with the worst cliffhanger possible, which was John Doe, where the guy wakes up in the middle of some stupid little island, doesn't remember who he is, but he knows everything else possible. So he can do pretty much anything, and he basically earns a living within a day just by going to some stock trader and knowing, oh, something overseas is going to do something stupid, and then I can make a lot of money off of it. And then for some reason he decides to just solve murders for a whole season. Why not? And at the last episode, he's trying to find someone who got kidnapped, and apparently he now has the powers of ESP, so he can telepathically figure out where people are.
Because why not?
Science.
What?
Makes sense.
Yeah, apparently it got a little silly nearly the end, but then he chases the kidnapper down some stupid underground hallway. The person escapes up a manhole ladder. He looks up through the manhole cover, and the person peers down, and it's the person he's been working for the entire season. And then it just fades to black. Like, what the fuck? And there's no to be continued. There's no wait and see what happens. It's just canceled, done. You'll never know. That was one of those scenarios where I actually would have probably flipped a table in anger at the time. But even with its ridiculousness, that was a good example of a character-led plot where you actually do get engaged with the various characters and, to a degree, the plot progression. And then the writers just screw you over.
Probably not so much the writers, but the network.
That too. It wouldn't have surprised me if it was on Fox.
Wait a second, wasn't John Doe on Fox?
It wouldn't surprise me in the least. Chances are it was.
This is why I don't watch Fox.
What does the internet say? Yeah.
I remember that show. Yeah, that was on Fox. Blankety blank.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop talking about Fox because it'll make me sad and it'll probably constitute slander.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to add for this talking point, Calvin?
I did, but I forgot.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
We can come back to you if it pops back up.
Okay, no problem.
Alright, moving down the line, I guess it's my turn. Yay! For me, cliffhangers are totally frenemies. I love to hate them, and hate to love them. At the moment, my current favorite series that has a cliffhanger, pretty much every single book within the series, they're all from Rock Publishing for some reason, which is it's ROC, like the funky creature, not the stupid little rock. It's a publishing imprint under Penguin, apparently. I didn't know that before today. But, I mean, there's the Ally Beckstrom series by Devin Monk, the Jane Yellow Rock series, and Rogue Mage series by Faith Hunter, which is an awesome author name. All of the books have stupid cliffhangers at the end of each book. Like, they teeter precariously on the ledge between one climax's resolution and the next book's major plot point. So I've learned my lesson, and I usually wait until a couple of the books have finally come out, and then I buy them all, and then I can read a few of them just to get through a couple of the cliffhangers, because I want to know what happens after we get the end from book 1 and whatnot. I don't like having just basic resolution in one book and then it's done, and then the next book is something entirely different. I kind of like having them tie together slowly, even if it is a little exasperating when you run out of books. And going down the line, Ed's turn.
I think I have a hate-to-love relationship with the whole cliffhanger thing, too. If somebody pulls a cliffhanger and I actually sit there saying, oh my god, what happens? I need to know, that's a good thing for me. Because the author has done such a great job of pulling me in. I need to know if the character lives, or I need to know if the world explodes, that sort of thing. If I hit a point like that and I'm like, I don't care, that's like a big alarm to me that this author just isn't doing it. So I love them, and yet I tear my hair out at the same time. So, yeah, love to hate relationship here.
Do you have a good example of a series that has a cliffhangers that really engaged you?
I'm going back to the old standby of Ken Akamatsu. Negima is probably the mega series that has made me do it the most. I'm sorry. Your favorite character is sitting there with a gaping hole, and there's nothing else. They don't tell you if he lives or dies.
I'm sure he'll be fine. It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah.
No body, no death.
There's only a giant stone spike through his chest.
Yeah, one of those. That's the example that is glaring in my mind at the moment. Actually, Full Metal had a few of those. I think it was better done in the actual animes than it was in the manga books, where they would end an episode where Ed was impaled, or you had them staring off at somebody and you don't know who wins. As much as you can guess because of plot devices, but you still don't know. For me, like, manga and anime tend to be the worst culprits of this for me.
Alright. And how about Justin?
So I had a lot to say on this topic because I hate cliffhangers a lot, and I'll explain why. So at first, I thought there were 3 types of cliffhangers. There's actually another one that I just thought of, and I'll get to that in a second. So the first type of cliffhanger is what's going to happen immediately after this scene. And I find that a complete cop-out in storytelling. I don't want a character hanging off of a cliff at the end of the book. I feel like it's very disingenuous to your audience, and it feels like a big screw you, buy my next book. And I hate that. The second type, which I love and appreciate, is how are they going to handle this new threat or reveal? I would like the main B story of that particular book, if it's in a series, to be resolved, and anything that comes to wanting to get the next book should hang solely on whether or not you want to see the character again with this new plot line that has developed. I'd rather have an introduction cliffhanger than we didn't finish writing this cliffhanger. But the bottom line is, don't leave the B story hanging to be resolved later. Start a new B story that will make your readers go, now I have to know how they're going to deal with this. And this is especially powerful when you have a bunch of characters that you've fallen in love with over time. You can definitely, want to read the next book because you know that there's a new situation they're going to have to deal with. And that's the kind of cliffhanger that I like. And the third type of cliffhanger, which is something that CJ mentioned, was, and it's the most evil type of cliffhanger, it's the conclusion to the A story ending on a cliffhanger where there will be no resolution at all. This isn't to say that a twist ending or an unexpected ending is bad. Many of my favorite endings are those oh crap moments at the end where something gets revealed. But the story and the plot itself should be resolved at that point. A terrible author is one who doesn't know how to write an ending and leaves it up to the reader to decide what happens. I can't stand those. I find them evil. And just now, Ed reminded me of a fourth type of cliffhanger, which is the Dragon Ball Z style cliffhanger, where nothing actually happens through the entire episode except a stare off, and then that's it. And then the next episode, maybe they'll fight. Unclear.
30 minutes of power up!
Exactly.
Join us next week when they actually fight.
Right. I don't know if I consider that more evil or as evil as the third type of cliffhanger, but I don't appreciate that either.
No, that's pretty evil.
Definitely as evil.
Namek Saga.
That's just it. That's all kind of wrong.
Yeah.
Previously on Dragon Ball Z. Coming up on Dragon Ball Z. On the next Dragon Ball Z.
I remember there being
10 episodes.
Wasn't there like an entire villain they were getting ready to defeat the villain, and they had like, what was it, 30 minutes to fight before the planet exploded, and that dragged out for 5 episodes?
Namek Saga.
Mm.
Well, when you have a hyperbolic time chamber, you can get away with some time. I mean, I never watched Dragon Ball Z. What's stupid?
I feel like DBZ Abridged did the Namek Saga justice.
Oh, God.
Yeah, taking those different types of cliffhangers into consideration, I feel like a lot of the ones that I appreciate are the second type of how are they going to handle the B plot in the next book. Oops. And a lot of the ones that I referenced earlier, like specifically the Ali Beckstrom series, is a lot of the, well, we finished off this main part of the story arc, but there's still all of these loose ends that need to be sorted out. And most of us are all beat up. One of us has a hole in our chest. One of us has a magical rock in our head. How are we going to figure those things out?
Wait, I'm sorry, a magical rock in your head?
Well, okay, I mixed the two up. One of them actually has a magic rock embedded in his chest, which is tied into another magic user, secret society person, who is actually his frenemy. And there's a lot of unexplored tension between the two.
That makes a little bit more sense. I was trying to imagine a magic rock in someone's brain or something.
Well, the main character has had her head messed with a lot, so she has a lot of amnesia points thanks to her father, who is now dead, but is actually a ghost in her head. Because magic.
That sounds unpleasant.
It is, but very entertaining to hear the internal monologue when it's no longer a monologue.
Amnesia would be a good topic for next week's episode.
All I can think of is, you're a great monologuer, and I'm going to let you finish, but I'm going to interrupt your monologue and just say...
Oh, you're Kanye, Mitch. Stop. needs to lock that man up.
That makes me think more of the villain is monologuing. Quick, punch him.
But then how will you know his secret evil plan, CJ?
I don't care. Punch him.
That's a good point.
Better if you kill him.
Also a good point.
And wrapping us up, William.
Yeah.
Instigator of all this.
Yeah, I'm the one that posed the question. I think when it comes to reading, I love to hate the cliffhangers. They drive me nuts having to wait for the next volume to see, the next episode of the show to come out, the next volume of the manga or the novel to come out, to see what happens next. But at the same time, I think that pent-up angst, constantly waiting to see what happens next, kind of adds a bit of a thrill to it. As long as there isn't too much of a gap between it. We have to wait a few weeks to figure out what happens next. When you finally get to it, it's kind of exciting because you've been thinking about it for so long, trying to figure out what's going to happen next, playing out different scenarios. At least I do this in my head, to see how it's going to go. And then when you finally see what path they took, it's pretty thrilling. It's suspenseful. Except for the Dragon Ball Z endings and the the Dragon Ball Z cliffhangers and the unfinished cliffhangers.
The WTF ones.
I've read and seen a few things where they were getting good, they ended a volume with a cliffhanger, and then the series got canceled. They even had, I don't know, that might be more for the After Dark version, but there was actually an adult series I was watching that actually had a pretty good story. Ended an episode with a cliffhanger, and then they didn't make any more. So I didn't get to see how the story ended. And there was a manga I was reading called The Rat Man that was being released by Tokyo Pop. They got to volume 4. Then
What
Tokyo
happened after
Pop went
that?
under.
Oh. Aw.
There's so many series like that.
Yeah. If you're in the middle of a new series by Tokyo Pop, when it went under, you're pretty much screwed.
That was closed on like half my
No one bought out their intellectual properties?
Nobody's doing license rescues.
Yeah. Unless
That's
it was a really popular series, a lot of them weren't getting picked up.
Well, I should say that Viz has been doing a couple of license rescues.
Yeah.
They picked up one of the old Gokami ones.
Anyway, I do enjoy the suspense of that, as long as it's not too long. With novels, if it takes more than a year to get the next novel out, then I don't want the cliffhanger to be too much. Salvatore is pretty good at the cliffhangers or leading into, like if you read the original Icewind Dale trilogy, the first volume, the Crystal Shard, has its complete story, A to B, but at the end, they begin the journey for book 2. They don't actually get into the plot, but the last few paragraphs is them leaving to go on the journey that takes place in book 2. So it gives you the cliffhanger that there's more, but you don't have to read it if you don't want to.
That was a good trilogy.
It was a good trilogy. I enjoyed it. His most recent one ended with a bit of a cliffhanger in that they finished the story for the trilogy, but then he introduced at the very end a couple characters that died in volume 1 of the trilogy. And oh look, no wait, they're back. That
He's
was like
good
last,
at that.
that was the last paragraph. And I'm like, he's been dead. Now he's back. And what
He
about the
got
two
better.
guys that you killed off, but we don't have corpses for? Are they really dead? They've been notoriously good at avoiding death to date. But when it comes to writing, I have to admit I'm rather evil, and I love writing cliffhangers. I don't feel too bad for it, because since I'm doing it on a chapter-by-chapter basis, my readers only have to wait a month. And once the series is out as a complete book, they really wouldn't be cliffhangers, because you could immediately just turn the page and see what happens next. But I've discovered that I seem to only be good at writing two endings to chapters, either a cliffhanger or what I consider a sappy ending. I don't usually like the sappy endings, so I tend to favor the cliffhangers.
Stephen King is notorious for end of chapter cliffhangers, and he even has the occasional chapter that's just a one sentence line, which is another cliffhanger. I've seen that way more than once, so I can sympathize with cliffhanger chapters.
I'm actually thinking that the current chapter I am currently writing, I was planning out how its progression. I'm like, it would be a really good way to end this chapter with a cliffhanger.
Be the first time you did.
No, it wouldn't be the first time. And my readers have yelled at me. What happens next? You'll find out in a month.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of doing cliffhanger chapters with my zombie apocalypse story. Mainly whenever, they're trying to escape from the exploding building. The chapter ends with only one of them making it out on screen, as it were. What about the other one?
I don't know. We'll find out soon.
Find out next time, whenever Charles gets around to it.
10 years later. And I'm probably going to be just as... I'm going to be just as bad at that with my steampunk tea shop plot. Because I already know various plot progression points that I want to tease at the end of each chapters.
That should be entertaining.
Yeah, I think I'm going to end up doing that one for my Nano this year. Mainly because I don't want to come up with something else.
You've been working on the steampunk tea shop for a few years now.
It's my youngest plot, as it were, that I've actually gotten to any reasonable point with, but yeah, it's been about 2 years now since I first got the idea and started playing around with it.
I remember when you were here last a few years ago, you were talking about it.
It takes me a long time to actually bother to work on a plot.
I know how that goes.
Alright, I think that wraps up our talking points for this episode, unless anyone has any follow-ups they'd like to chip in. Yes, no, maybe?
Nope.
Alright. Onwards to our commercials. As with previous episodes, we are looking for sponsors. How can you sponsor us? We have a convenient PayPal donation link on our show notes. Just go over to fcwriters.com, check out our podcasts page, and the link will be in each episode's show notes. Now, when you sponsor us, what can you get? For a $1 donation, you get a shout-out. You can promote your site, or a social media account, podcast, or just say hello to us. Whatever you like. If you up that to $5, you can get a literary news link or ask a talking points question for the show. Something you want us to banter about or dig into, it's the price of a fancy coffee. And you get the entire crew talking. Now, if you really want to be nice to us, $10 sponsorships, that gets you an entire episode's worth of sponsoring. It just shows that you really love us and you want to show your appreciation for our shenanigans. It's the price of a decent meal, and we'll praise you for a whole 2 hours worth of podcasty goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
And if that doesn't really do it for you, you can just go to fcwriters.com, scroll down to the bottom, and we have 3 convenient links to Amazon, CreateSpace, and Books A Million. So if you're in the mood to purchase a book, or if you're going to publish a book through CreateSpace, or even just find something entertaining on Amazon, use one of those 3 links, and it provides us a few cents worth of affiliate profit, which goes directly back into hosting fees, content creation, and various other literary endeavors FC Writers is hoping to provide you in the future.
And my drug habit.
That too.
Yeah, that too.
and all of our drinking habits for the After Hours podcast, which I think we are probably going to lean towards the Not Suitable for Writers podcast as the name, as Justin has dubbed it, because that is worth stealing.
I gave it up as an offer to keep me on the podcast.
Yeah, we got to use you for something.
Yeah, just really quick. All in favor of that name?
Aye.
I guess.
All right.
All opposed?
Too bad.
Screw you, crickets. And that's actually also worth noting. The Not Suitable for Writers podcast is going to happen, and we're going to set it up as kind of a premium thing on our website where it'll be 69 cents an episode. And we'll be doing some recordings of that in late October, and we'll queue up hopefully about a half dozen episodes or so, something like that. They're all going to be a little different. I think we're going to do some Cards Against Humanity episodes, if possible. And any other entertaining literary-based games that we can do, probably while drinking or enjoying home-cooked food. And if there are any after-hours type questions or talking points you'd like us to converse about, email us at wordninja@fcwriters.com, and we'll add it to our list of things to play around with.
In a desperate attempt last year to finish my NaNoWriMo novel, I added a scene that is quite adult that I had no intention of writing, but I was so desperate to get words on the paper that I just went all out, and it is disgusting. So I might leave that on there.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
I think that's a prerequisite for Nano, period. Everyone has to write some sort of not safe for work scene at some point just to get the words out.
And something else out.
That wouldn't be difficult for me. I could probably write an entire 30,000 words, just not safe for work.
Even I have a few of those scenes. I think in the zombie apocalypse story, somewhere.
Gotta repopulate.
Ew. Especially considering who's left. On that note, let's move on to the next segment. The What Have You Been Reading and or Writing. We've merged the two segments to make it a little easier for people. That way we're not just going back and forth down the line of faces. Would anyone care to kick us off before I volunteer someone?
I'll start off. Like I said earlier, I got back into the Soul Eater series. I'm really excited about that. As I went out and bought the first 4 books. I think like maybe it was at least a year ago. Started reading them. For some reason, I ended up putting them down, and I haven't picked it back up until last week.
And for those horrible, horrible people that do not know what Soul Eater is about, like me, what is the basic premise?
Well, since I just finished the first book. Yeah, main characters. The main characters are Maka and her Death Scythe Soul Eater, and the way it started off, Maka is a soul miser, and she was working. Her and Soul Eater are trying to work towards getting him to become a full-fledged Death Scythe, and the prerequisites for that is for Soul Eater to consume the souls of 99 humans and a witch. The story starts off with Soul consuming his 99th soul, which happens to be the soul of Jack the Ripper. Interestingly enough. And they find themselves a witch to complete their task, but Soul gets distracted by the fact that they happen to catch this witch in the middle of her bath, and she's completely nude, and he gets thrown off like crazy. After a series of mishaps and screw-ups, they ultimately do vanquish the witch and consume the soul. But apparently, something goes terribly wrong. They eat her soul, but nothing happens. As it turns out, she wasn't a witch at all.
Oops.
She happened, spoiler alert, she was a cat. A cat that can shapeshift.
That's cheating.
So that's how it starts off.
Interesting.
So now they have to start from scratch.
So what, that negates all previous 99 souls?
Yep.
Those rules suck.
Boy, does it.
What happens if you get like 20 souls and then accidentally you get a witch as number 21?
That I'm actually not sure. I'm not sure if it has to be exactly 99 souls.
99 souls under Witcher's soul.
It has to be.
If you screw it up, Shinigami-sama takes the souls.
You have to start all over.
Yeah.
Well, that's just mean.
Shinigami is actually a really awesome guy for the god of death.
Yeah.
Made better if you watch the anime series and listen to his English voice actor, which is a high-pitched, squeaky voice.
All right, there's another.
Funimation did the dubbing?
Yes.
Yep.
That would be why. They're awesome like that.
It is actually currently airing on Adult Swim on Saturday nights
I think so.
in their Toonami blog. I think it's 1:30.
I don't know. They keep moving it around. I haven't really been paying attention.
It is also available on like your Netflix and your Hulu stuff if you really want to watch it.
All right, there's also a prologue in Book 1 about Shinigami-sama's son, Death the Kid, and he's pretty fucking special too.
Kid is the shit.
I won't ruin that one for you guys. You guys can go check that out.
Worth it.
But it is worth it. It's a great series. That was a great way to start a series. I've actually read 2 and 3, but I don't remember them, so that's why I'm going back to them.
Nice.
That's what I've been reading. As for what I've been writing, nothing. I would just be honest. I haven't written anything. I have attempted other creative endeavors, like music. Well, actually, in terms of writing, I can't really say I haven't been writing. I have been doing lyric writing, trying to like really desperately finish a song that I've been working on. Kind of a personal one. Just it's a song where I've been trying to basically figure out what I've been, well, not really what I've been doing with my life, but this trying to having an introspective look on my life. It's gonna be pretty interesting. I already have the music, have the guitar part is already done. I just have to finish the lyrics.
So are the lyrics basically "I am awesome"?
Unfortunately, it's the opposite of awesome. It's kind It's kind of a very brooding song. But it's just something that I just have to get off my chest so I can kind of move forward, you know.
Fair enough.
Then I can talk about being awesome.
That'll be the follow-up song.
Screw you, feelings. I'm awesome. So yeah, I've been working on that, working on other music. As Will and Ed will attest to, I did make an attempt at drawing yesterday,
Yeah.
and good God, did that fail epically.
But it wasn't your fault.
It was technical difficulties. My tablet crapped out on me.
Again.
Oh.
Actually, this was the first time this one crapped out on me.
But you've had a tablet crap out on you in the past, which is why you bought this one.
Yes.
How many tablets have you gone through now?
This is only the second one. and goddammit, this one better not crap out on me completely because I spent good money on this one. I did get it working. Computer reset and driver update fixed it.
Is it still under warranty by any chance, just in case?
No.
Oh.
Stupid companies and the 1-year warranties, god damn it. The next tablet I get is most likely going to be a Cintiq, and I'm going to put that under like a 8-year warranty or something.
Deals from the companies the store you buy them from.
Because if that one craps out on me, tables are getting thrown. Alright, so that's what I've been working on.
Alright. Let's rotate things a little bit and skip over to... Come on now. Justin.
So I've been reading this excellent book, Computational Fluid Dynamics.
Nice.
Sounds riveting.
It's by John D. Anderson Jr., and it has the basics, but it's also with applications. So it's really nice. I'm going to read you the first couple sentences. This computational fluid dynamics book is truly for beginners, so I'm already all in. If you have never studied CFD before, if you have never worked in this area and you have no real idea as to what the discipline is all about, then this book is for you. So this book is exactly for me. And my job is making me do CFD. Absolutely no prior knowledge of CFD is assumed on your part. Only your desire to learn something about the subject is taken for granted. So that's what I've been reading. I'm going to be starting to read fiction again really soon, but I've had so many emergency projects at work. I just been sleeping and working for the last month.
That one sounds like it's going to have a lot of good world building in it.
Yeah. I just got to the part where they started talking about vector equations instead of differential equations. So that was like an exciting twist at the end of that chapter. I'm looking forward to resolving that cliffhanger in the B story.
Nice.
As far as writing is concerned, I've been writing a lot of code for my blog, so I don't think that really counts. But as soon as stuff gets up and running, I'll be doing a lot more writing. And I've been at least musing about writing for Nano and other upcoming projects. I have so many things on the table. I too, CJ, am working on a zombie apocalypse story. That was my first Nano attempt that failed miserably. I got a girlfriend or something. I don't know what happened. So writing went out the window. So I would like to revisit that world. And then I've got a story plot that I got from a workshop that our writing group hosted, which was really fun. And then I have another story that's almost too similar to last year's Nano story, so I might skip that one. But then other than that, it's just going to be blog posts and self-help type stuff. But when that launches and goes live, I'll definitely be sharing more of that with you guys.
Nice. And then eeny, meeny, miny, Ed.
Okay. I actually have stuff this week.
Hooray!
Woohoo!
I actually started reading the Full Metal Alchemist novel series. Speaking of series again, so I started with the first one. This one is The Land of Sand, and basically.
Ed, I think your audio cut out.
I got a message saying that you muted.
He muted the mic and didn't tell me.
Oh.
Oh, well, your mic muted, so I took care of it. Okay, so now that technical difficulty's over, so yeah, basically it's the Full Metal Alchemist in the Land of Sand, and oh, this is throwing me off.
I'll get it back now.
So you're gonna fix it?
There you go. I don't know why it muted.
Okay. This is what happens when I try to talk sick too. It's basically they end up in this town. The town's falling apart. The show notes will have all of the back stuff. I'm actually not up to reading it. But basically, they run into imposters of themselves in an attempt to find that are also trying to create this Philosopher's Stone to save the town. If you're familiar with the show at all, there was actually with the original 2003 version, there was actually a couple episodes based on it too. So as far as reading, that's what I've actually been writing too. I'm proud of myself. It is up on my Tumblr page. I posted it last night. I've been delving into my fanfic world again. I was sitting here listening to piano music, of all things. And, of course, we all know I'm also a yaoi fanfic writer. So I got hit with Major, Roy, and Feels. But it's actually completely clean. Completely clean. About 1,000 some odd. And I started. The story could stand alone, but I've been toying with maybe expanding it. I haven't gotten a lot of feedback yet, so I don't know if I'm going to write more. But if you, my link is down here. If you go into my Drabble section, it's listed there under, I believe I called it Leather and Ash. Because that's one of the things in the story that Ed equates Roy. The way he smells to him is like worked leather and ash. So there is a reason for it.
Sounds like some scotch I drank.
That would also apply because the rare times that Roy indulges, it usually is scotch. So yeah, there's that. Me and my random things inspiring me to write stuff.
You know how that goes.
And actually, I started because I was looking for piano music to use with another version of Ed that I write, and this came out of it. Because there's a version of Ed that I write that actually can play the piano, so I'm always looking for like piano pieces and whatnot that I could reference and have him play, so to speak. But the other all-consumer of my time, as Calvin mentioned, art. I have been drawing, which I do draw for money, by the way. But no. So that's been mostly my all-consuming time, my fan art. But I don't have to worry about technical difficulties as long as my mechanical pencil hands out. Which the other day it jammed and I thought I was screwed. I love my mechanical pencils.
What happens when you run out of the eraser, though?
I have this eraser. I have refills for said eraser. I'm good. I even have more. Where did my lead refill go? There it is. I even have more legs. I will not run out. Actually, if people want to be nice, I do need more sketchbooks. Seriously, need more sketchbooks.
And how about Will?
Me. I have not been reading,
Shame.
but I have been writing. I've been working on chapter 17 for my novel, My Roommate's a Stripper. This first part is actually clean. I actually think this entire chapter is going to be clean. We'll see how it pans out. I can give the first sentence of the chapter if anybody wants. I put it in the show notes. The first sentence is, the weather had taken a turn for the better as August approached its end. If that doesn't pull you in. So I've just been working on that, and yesterday I wrote a little short drabble thing that popped into my head the day before and required reading. Absolutely. Writing, rather. I had to write it. I don't know how to explain it because I don't really know where it came from. It just appeared in my head, and so I wrote it, and it's only about a page long, but people seem to like it.
Yeah, I did get a chance to read it. It was pretty good.
I know. Stop you.
Perfect.
Oh, it is not.
Is it posted up on Tumblr somewhere?
It is on Tumblr. I can provide a link for it if wanted, so you can get directly to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind taking a perusal.
Yeah, I can send you a link of it. All the places I posted it on are places that are, if you need accounts for, it's not safe for work. Because my Tumblr blog in and of itself is not safe for work. So even if something I post on it is safe for work, you still get that, hey, this blog is not safe for work warning message.
Good thing I'm not at work. Alright, and I guess I shall round it out. I've actually been reading 2 books by the same author. Rose in the Devil's Garden and My Soul to Keep. One is considerably creepier than the other. Guess which one?
Actually.
Roses can be pretty evil.
You see Coraline?
But both of the books are by Anthony Paolucci. I met him at Connecticut Comic-Con almost a month ago now. And to give you guys an idea of the 2 books, they're supposedly YA genre based, but I don't know. My Soul to Keep is deep, or at least deeper than I would have read at that age. Let's see here. The first sentence for A Rose in the Devil's Garden is, "There came a pounding knock at the door." Not the most auspicious beginning, but the back teaser is, "The Corn Maid, an evil witch who has plagued the Quiet Valley settlement for hundreds of years, has bequeathed her wicked methods for transcending mortality to her loyal henchmen. Now, endowed with the ability to overcome his vulnerable existence, this foul servant of the witch has put into motion his own otherworldly transformation by continuing her savage crusade against the innocent lives of the villagers. Young David, a victim of the henchman's cruel misdeeds, awakens to find himself in a strange prison on the outskirts of the forest. Will he find a way to escape his unusual confines? If so, can he survive the treacherous journey necessary to put an end to the Corn Maid and her terrible servant forever? The answer is maybe. You'll have to purchase the book and find out for yourself. And for My Soul to Keep, the first sentence is, Eve had never seen so much blood. The back teaser is, a child is born who fails to take his first breaths. Overcome with anguish, Ethan, the village physician and constable, who is also knowledgeable in the ways of magic, transfers his son's newborn soul into the body of his daughter's beloved cat, Ghost. There, the child is safely kept until Ethan is able to find a suitable body for his son to inhabit. The harrowing predicament soon becomes a moral dilemma for both Ethan and his wife Abigail, who only have until the aging cat departs this world. All the while, the family is plagued by gossip and suspicion at the hands of their superstitious neighbors. Will Ethan cave beneath the weight of his confliction and allow his son to pass into the afterlife, as nature intended? Or will an unexpected opportunity allow him to give the child the long and happy life that fate cruelly denied him? Both of these books and about a half dozen more that he has authored can be found over at anthonypaolucci.webs.com. And everything else will be in the show notes on fcwriters.com under the Word Ninja podcast page.
An alchemical doctor and cop. I'm already intrigued.
Yeah, My Soul to Keep was very interesting, but very deep, so it took me the full week to actually read through it. And it had a pretty satisfying ending, actually. I was kind of curious as to how it would actually all pan out. And you don't really find out until the last half dozen pages or so.
Okay.
But there is no cliffhanger. There is resolution.
Good.
I'm so happy.
And as for writing, I have failed miserably. I was supposed to do a blog post, but I just wasn't able to connect with the topic, and I did not balance my work, school, and life schedules accordingly. And really, there just wasn't enough pressure on me to actually just do the damn thing. So it did not happen.
It happens.
Yeah, I'm hoping this coming week I'll have more time to focus on that stuff, or better balance between work and school and the hour of sleep here or there.
It was pretty hard for me to get back into the swing of things after my vacation a week or so ago. I'm still trying to like, well, get any sort of some sort of inspiration to do stuff.
What is this vacation concept you speak of? I'm not familiar with it.
So I shouldn't tell you about my 3 weeks in Taiwan then, CJ? No, but Calvin, I'm in the same position, except when I got off the plane back from Taiwan, my boss was like, hey, so there are these people that were working on this project, and they did not so great time-wise, so now it's your project, and it's due in 1 week. And you've never seen it before. So I basically worked 60 hours that week, and then this week, or last week as it were, my boss was like, oh, hey, since you did such a good job on that project, here's another emergency project that's due in 1 week.
Oh, God.
So after this podcast, I have to go back to work, actually. But after today, I think my life will reach some sort of normalcy, and I'll be able to write more consistently again, which would be nice, especially if I'm going to be flaunting it all over the podcast. It'd be nice to actually have something.
Fair enough.
And now I believe it is time for upcoming events. Let's see, on September 14th, we have a regional event for Fairfield County Writers Group over at the Westport Library in Westport, Connecticut. We'll be there from 2 to 5 p.m. It's a 3-hour writing event where we peer pressure each other into writing, or else. We still don't know what happens if someone actually says, or else what. Don't ask. But if you're interested in those events, you can go to our Facebook group page just by searching Fairfield County Writers Group on Facebook, or go to fcwriters.com, click on the Word Ninja podcast page, and the link will be in our show notes. And I am still working on the Surviving the Novel Writing Process workshop series, which will be the last week of October, from the 28th to November 1st, possibly. They'll be at different libraries each day. It'll be about a 2-hour workshop to basically have everyone who attends figure out a 50,000-word length plot, just starting with the outline and getting a few characters to play around with and figuring out what the climax and or resolution will be, just so they have something to work towards. And to find out more about that, Facebook page is under Full Coverage Writers, or check out fcwriters.com under the podcast page, show notes, blah-de-blah. And we don't have anything else scheduled events-wise, at least not yet, which moves us on to writing prompts for the week. Because every writer needs extra inspiration sometimes. Now we have a new little spiel for this. To help with that, we've searched far-off exotic lands and strange new worlds and interviewed weird civilizations in order to bring you weekly writing prompts to get that writing flowing. We provide you with 10 one-liner writing prompts in order to get the story rolling. Use it as your first sentence and see where your muse goes from there. Or try tossing a one-liner in the middle of a piece already in the works. Whatever works to get those fingers on the keyboard and typing away. And we also provide 10 one-worders, which are meant as more of a concept-driven inspiration. Try tossing 1 or 2 of the one-worders into a piece as an extra challenge. Now, it's not necessary to use all of the prompts at once, or even any of them. They're really meant more as an extra resource for you to use when your muse is tired and cranky and there are deadlines to be made, or just some spare time to actually be writing, even if your muse doesn't want to cooperate. The Muse Food for this week has been posted over on fcwriters.com under the Muse Food section, or you can go through our show notes and find the link there. And if someone wants to take a peek at those and see any of interest while I actually bring it up.
I actually have one of interest. I hate to call out potential mistakes off of papers, but on the one-worders, I see there's one limber and then dash and then 2. I'm not sure if that's a word or a concept I'm not familiar with.
It's a word from another universe, obviously.
Limber 2.
Which means you're more limber than just limber 1.
It's something you'd find in like the DSM maybe. I like the guy saying spell your name backwards, instant password, because now he has just revealed the password that he uses for everything to everybody that he says that to. So I find that one-liner intriguing, especially since I'm a security whore.
But what happens if you don't know his full name?
Dun, dun, dun. I don't know if I know anyone that I don't know their name.
Anything is possible with enough minions.
Indeed.
I just
There.
boy voice.
Oh,
no.
You know, the first name that comes to mind when reading that is Zap Brannigan.
I could do it in that voice, too.
Good.
Anything is possible with enough minions. Kip, come here.
All you really have to do is just throw waves upon waves of men in it until something happens.
I don't know, I like the lead one.
Sorry, I have really naughty ones for I'll take special requests now.
You know what? I was literally going to bring that one up and then reference you. So I'm glad that you did it for me, so I didn't look like a jerk. But I also appreciate that you fulfilled everything that I thought about you and confirmed.
I already have
When
plans
one
for.
of your characters her and does live private webcam shows. that line isn't so out of place.
I already have diabolical plans for she needs these pills or things don't end well for the rest of us.
Yeah, I was looking at that one. Trying to see if I can come up with something for that.
I can actually use the slinking about the shadows will only get you in trouble if I decide to continue the story I started yesterday. Because it actually left with the end of it actually leaves with a character walking out of the shadows.
TJ, share some behind the scenes about where you come up with the one-worders, because dice followed immediately by murder, and then followed by 2 rhymes and a 1/3 rhyme, main, twain, and a flame. What are you doing?
I plead the 5th.
Safer that way?
Probably. No, I have an Excel spreadsheet where I have the one-liners and the one-worders on separate pages, and I just toss various lines or words in there as they come to me. And then half the time I use a random number generator to figure out which ones are going to be tossed in each week. And I keep track of how many times they've been posted and when they were, so I'm not repeating them too soon from when they were last posted. But half the time it's usually, well, I'll scroll through these 5, copy, paste. And as always, if you write a flash fiction or short story utilizing these prompts, we'd love to read it. Email us a copy of your short piece or the URL where we can read it. Please keep it under 5,000 words if at all possible. Send us a message over at wordninja@fcwriters.com and we'll promote it on a future episode and review it as well. And depending on how well it entertains us, we may even do a live reading.
And depending on how long.
That too. Well, if it's long, we'd probably do the first page's worth as a reading, and then say to read more, go to URL. And something that we've been doing half-heartedly in the past that I'm going to try and make more regular is a story dice combo for a writing prompt. Because if you're a visual writer, or you need something more visual as inspiration, we are now using Rory's Story Cubes, which is a 9-dice series which provides something like 56 combinations or something like that. And they now have an app version for the Android, finally. Also for the iPhone store and whatnot. We'll be using that to figure out amusing combinations and tossing one of those up in the show notes per week. Now, let's see here. And where are they? Okay, for this week, it looks like we have a fountain, a crow, some parachuting guy, a bridge over water, possibly troubled, an eye, I presume a girl playing with two little stuffed animals. Kind of looks like a dress.
I don't know, I said there was a little boy playing with dolls.
I wrote that last night.
It's a young androgynous figure playing with dolls.
Yes.
Let's be politically correct here.
There.
We got a speech bubble. We got a surprised-looking monkey. And we have a bubbling cauldron. Or at least that's what I kind of interpret them all as. Half the fun of these images is trying to interpret them to figure out just what the hell they are.
Yes, take a look at them and draw your own conclusions and go crazy.
And again, if you happen to write a short story or flash fiction piece utilizing them, email us a copy. Let us know about it. And we'll promote it and review it and read it and whatnot. And unless anyone has some last-minute things they would like to cover for this episode, I think we're about ready to wrap it up.
I reckon we've covered all bases today.
That's all I've got.
Yeah, I think we went through a lot.
I can read more from computational fluid dynamics if you want.
Maybe next episode.
There's this great section on shock tube equations. It's pretty fun. And
Yeah, let's have that as the cliffhanger for this episode.
yeah.
Will we learn more about it
That
next
one's
week
never
or
going to get
not?
resolved, is it?
Alright, with that, it is time for attributions. Who are all you weird peoples, and where can other peoples find you on the internets? Let's go down the line, starting from the right, with Will.
All right, I am Will. I go typically by the handle Darkholm on the internet. My writing Tumblr account, where I keep everything for My Roommate's a Stripper, is at the URL indicated just below, www.myroommatesastripper.tumblr.com. It is not safe for work. I also have a personal Tumblr, www.darkholm.tumblr.com, also not safe for work.
I'm seeing a pattern.
My everything is not safe for work. I am not safe for work.
No, you're not.
My seldom used Twitter is at Will Granville, and if you want more of my story information or any stories I write, including chapters of My Roommate's a Stripper and a few other odds and ends, you can find them at my SoFurry handle, darkholm.sofurry.com. You may likely need to sign up a free account to actually view that stuff, though.
And onward to the left, Justin.
So, being a person that's obsessed with this current brand, I will be opening up a brand pretty soon. I don't have anything to promote at the moment, but once my self-help blog goes live, this section will be filled out. And my goal is to get it all up by October 1st, but I'm actually ahead of schedule, so I may just get it up even earlier than that.
Nice.
I may, in the interim, start writing my 100 words a day thing that I used to do and put those up somewhere easily accessible. So we'll wait for next week before I start promoting the crap out of myself.
All right. One more to the left, Ed.
For me, most of my writing is at the fullmetaledwardellrick.tumblr.com, which has the NSFW tag. I do a little bit of it. Not a lot, but a little. I have a couple of seldomly used Twitter accounts, Ed the Alchemist and Midnight Alchemist. Ed is kind of a role-playing Twitter. Midnight is my personal one. And I do have a DA account. I can be found at www.ladymidnight.deviantart.com. Don't ask. It's a really old account, but I do still load there every once in a while. It's mostly my art. There's some of my writing there. But that's probably the Tumblr is definitely where is the easiest to find me.
All right. I'm going to skip myself for the moment and go to Calvin. Because I can.
Fine. Let's see. Here's a bunch of places you can find me. If you're having any trouble viewing the FC Writers site, if there's any glitches or anything like that, contact me at thewebmaster@fcwriters.com. You can find me over at the music website Riffraff at riffraff.net, riffraf.net. If you want to check out some of the things I do outside of work in Riffraff, you can go to calvin.cwillia.ms. That's my portfolio and personal website. My main email address is calvin@cwillia.ms. You can find me on Tumblr. Look for Instacal. And on Twitter and Instagram, you can find me at ccwii. There you go.
Basically, Calvin is everywhere.
Pretty much. I do a lot, so I have to be kind of everywhere.
Alright. And as for me, everything that I am is over at fcwriters.com, because Full Coverage Writers is everything that I do at this point. But you can also find us, pretty much, you can also find us over on Facebook. Our page is Full Coverage Writers. We have a regional group, Fairfield County Writers Group, and we're hoping to expand into more regions in the future. We also have a Tumblr page, fcwordninja.tumblr.com. And our literary Twitter is at fcwordninja. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, arguments, if you just want to rant at us, you can reach us over at wordninja@fcwriters.com. And
Yes.
with that, we are wrapping up episode 10, everyone.
Woohoo!
How the hell did we reach the double digits?
Magic?
Sounds about right.
What manner of sorcery is this?
Now, let's see if we can reach the triple digits.
Now that will be the challenge.
Or at least hit episode 69. That one's going to be very hard to keep out of the not suitable for writers podcast style. I can already tell. But yes, that is the Full Coverage Writers Word Ninja podcast, episode 10. Signing out. Until next week, all.
I was
I mean, it's
thinking,
not like it doesn't go through my living room. I would have to walk.
goes to the garage, of course.
Oh, I didn't tell you I have my own personal train line.
Will, how about you?
Yes. What did I write down for this? Both are good, but I think I go more for series than standalone books. A standalone can be good. It just seems you can. What did I even write here? It seems like there's more you can get into in a series because you have more time. You get to watch a character develop over a much long period of time and see how they act in different plots and settings. You know, like a standalone book, there's one overarching plot. With the series, you can get multiple overarching plots. My favorite ongoing series, which is still ongoing, you want to talk about as long as the manga series, is The Legacy of Drist by Salvatore. It's over 20 novels long and still ongoing.
Okay, so I'm about 15 books behind then.
Yeah, let's see. Trilogy, quadrilogy, trilogy.
Oh, never mind. I have 5 of the trilogies. I just haven't read 2 of them. So I'm not too behind.
I am caught up. And that one's interesting because throughout the entire series, even though each trilogy is its own plot. The entire thing is about Drist from pretty much exactly the moment he was born. So it's been interesting to watch him develop as the world changes over hundreds of years of time. Especially in the most recent series, where being the righteous, good guy and what is right and wrong isn't so clear-cut anymore. It's left him very confused. Teaming up with less scrupulous people, and he's not quite sure how he feels about that.
Well, some of his companions weren't exactly lawful good.
Yeah, but now he's ranging more with the chaotic neutral types and the lawful evil types, and he's stuck with known thieves, assassins, and murderers, and they're the good guys now, and he's not liking that fact. 100 years ago, I wanted to kill you, and
Magic tends to be a little more complicated, so it takes a little longer to sort itself out, and seems to work better across multiple books. Or at least that's what entertains me more with each specific genre.
TJ, do you consider stories that, or books that are in the same universe but have different story arcs and usually different characters, although there's obviously going to be crossover occasionally, would you consider that a series per se? It's more of a hybrid, I guess.
If it's the same universe and it encompasses similar characters, I would consider that a series, but if it's different characters entirely within the same universe, yeah, it's different enough. I've never really thought about that.
Because that's something that I was writing about for this prompt. I only really prefer reading a series when it's already been written and released. I don't like to wait around for my books to be published, so I'll usually just wait until I know that the story arc exists in paper form before I go at it. That's why I refuse to read Game of Thrones, for example. And then
you're going to be waiting for a while.
Yeah. And then, God forbid, you have a Wheel of Time situation on your hands. So I just totally don't touch anything until it's totally complete. But again, the exception being series of books, like I mentioned before, that are really standalone, even if they're based in the same world. Especially when I read a lot of Stephen King horror, and a lot of that is, all of his earlier stuff is based in like Castle Rock, Maine, the fake town. So sometimes you get some character overlap, but in general, all the stories, while being based in the same area and the same overarching fiction, have totally complete story arcs. And I can definitely pop those off in any order, and I appreciate that. I wouldn't consider that a series per se, even if they're set in the same setting. If it has a consistent narrative, like I said, I'll just wait for the whole thing to come out. But that being said, I still enjoy the series more, especially if the characters are consistent and I'm falling in love with them.
How about Calvin?
Me, for the most part, I like standalone books. The only main exception is manga, because they tend to go on and on and on and on and on. And
I have no idea what you're talking about. One Piece.
And since I often find myself late in the game and I like a lot of manga, I have the good fortune of being able to just continue reading series that kind of go on forever, and just get to kind of feel the consumption addict in me. Just keep going and going as long as I can.
Yeah, when it comes to manga, I've found that I can actually burn myself out on a series, even if it's still ongoing. Kind of like Naruto, because it just won't end.
I had that with Bleach. I loved it in the beginning, and I'm like 15 volumes behind, and I don't care as much anymore. I can read like the first story arc and be content, and then after that, I don't care anymore.
I think it was about 2 months ago I finally actually got caught up to current, and I just don't care anymore. It was a push just to get me to current because I figured it was entertaining enough. Let me at least catch up to see where they are now. I don't want to catch up anymore. Maybe once the story is finished, I'll go back. But meh.
We're all like 80.
Yeah, I started reading Soul Eater again. I'd started, but for some reason, I think probably some sort of shiny object got in my way, and I ended up putting it down. So I'm trying to get.
That series is finished.
Yes, it's only 113 books. But
I know where you can buy the entire series as one boxed set at discount.
You're gonna have to send that to me.
It's a book off in Manhattan. It's like 4 blocks northwest diagonally from Grand Central. It is one of my favorite haunts, but it is very dangerous for my budget.
All right, excuse me. I gotta write that down. I'll keep that in mind
Take
for
me
sure.
there, TJ. Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's definitely a place worth checking out.
I can take the train right from my house to Grand Central.
Your train has a station right next to your house. All you have to do is just walk out and it's there.
Now I have to work with you so we can both kill this other guy. Maybe I can work with him to redeem him. And the other guy's like, no, just stop. No. Stop trying to redeem me, asshole.
I still blame you for getting me into those series.
I am not sorry at all. The beginning of the next trilogy will probably come out either this year or next year.
Oh my. And how about Ed, if you'd like to contribute?
Yeah, excuse me today, I'm not doing all that great. Basically, you guys have talked about a lot of the same things that I would have said. The only exception that I really have is Stephen King a few years back did something with the Green Mile called the serial novel. I love those. I would love to see everything done that way. Because you get like a whole regular single novel, but in like 2 or 3 chapter chunks. I love those. And of course, manga draws me in. It's my downfall.
Your addiction.
Shush. I think the only real series I ever got into was James Patterson's Women's Murder Club, but I am like so far behind. And also Patterson, I guess, is a necromancer and involved in everything. And
the last rumor I read was that he's actually in a coma and all his novels are written from the involuntary spasms of his left hand.
So, yeah.
The folks over at Penny Arcade don't think too highly of Patterson.
I love him. What can I say? But, yeah, so like I said, for the most part, standalones for me. Or stuff that stands alone, but in the same world.
Out of curiosity for people, what are your various opinions on series that are done by multiple authors, like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy quote-unquote trilogy that now has 6 books across 2 authors?
I have them all in one book.
I don't think I've ever read a series that was written by multiple authors.
Yeah, me either. I'd have to read a series and form an opinion on that.
No, I'm trying to think of other examples. Good afternoon, ladies and menfolk, and welcome to episode 10 of the Word Ninja podcast. We're in the double digits now.
Woohoo!
Yay.
For those of you just joining us in our shenanigans, we are a 2-hour ramble of writers surviving muses and battling writer's blocks. I am Charles, your instigator of literary insanity, and today my co-hosts are Calvin,
Hello, everybody.
Ed,
Hello.
Justin,
Hello.
and Will.
How you doing?
And today we have some very entertaining talking points for you. The first one is, do you prefer reading series or standalone books? And to get the ball rolling, I'm actually going to kick things off, because I want to be first.
You have
Because I
every
never
right
get to
be.
be first. I'm always last or something.
By all means, man, go for it.
Alright, so for this one, it actually depends on the genre for me. When it comes to sci-fi books, or stuff with more of a techie influence, I tend to go more for the standalone books, or at most, duologies. I feel like sci-fi tends to work better, or is more engaging for me when it's just 1 or 2 books at a time, with the exception of stuff like the Star Trek Expanded Universe, or for others, Star Wars Expanded Universe and whatnot, where multiple authors are just expanding to a preset universe. But most of the time I just like the one-offs here and there. But when it comes to fantasies, I prefer the trilogies, quadrologies, quintologies, etc. My favorite example of this would be the Belgorod and Malorian quintologies by David Eddings, because it's actually one universe, and the Malorian is the sequel to the Belgorod quintologies. So it's really 10 books altogether, with 2 more standalone ones after that, just for good measure. But for the fantasy ones, it's more entertaining to see the character progressions throughout a longer story arc. Usually with the sci-fi ones, it feels like we have this one overarching plot, but it can be summed up easily within one book because science.